This is the fourth in a series of resources that look at broad topics in macroeconomics. Part 1 considers the gross domestic product, defining it in each component part, working through a couple of examples, and considering the limitations of the GDP as a measure of welfare. Part 2 considers the difference between public and private goods and looks at certain issues arising from public goods. Part 3 inspects the difference between real and nominal measures, working through an example. Part 4 looks at unemployment, providing definitions for various types of unemployment, and also defining other factors involved in calculating unemployment rates. Part 5 considers the Consumer Price Index, defining it, working through examples, and explaining how the CPI applies to actual real-world problems. Part 6 looks at economic growth, suggesting general methods countries may use to expand their economy. When we use the word unemployed, we normally mean someone who does not have a job. Economists are more specific. Yes, unemployed people do not have jobs to economists, but they must also be actively seeking work. People that simply lack work have other designations, as we shall see later. Economists define the labor force as the sum of all people who are either working plus the number of people who are officially unemployed. This leads to another designation, the labor force participation rate. This is defined as the labor force divided by the number of people aged 16 or older. To express this rate as a percent, the quotient is then multiplied by 100. As mentioned earlier, there are other designations for people lacking jobs but not officially labeled unemployed. Those designations are discouraged workers and marginally attached workers. A discouraged worker does not have a job, but they have at least looked for work within the last year. Marginally attached workers would like to work. They have looked in the recent past, but they have given up. They are no longer looking for work. We count discouraged workers among the number of marginally attached workers. There are a number of reasons why marginally attached workers are no longer looking for work. Perhaps they lack reliable transportation. Perhaps they have young children and cannot afford childcare, or prefer to stay at home with their children. Other individuals only work part-time due to other concerns. Suppose a person has medical issues and needs to stay on Medicaid due to exorbitant medication costs. Working full-time would push their income above the allowable threshold. Therefore, they can only work part-time. Even among the officially unemployed, there are separate forms of unemployment. These categories are seasonal, cyclical, frictional, and structural unemployment. Oddly enough, seasonal unemployment depends on what work is required during different seasons of the year. During winter months, there is not much call for work that must be done out of doors. Therefore, occupations like farm workers and construction may see an upswing in unemployment levels during winter months. Another example would be jobs that hire extra workers during the holiday seasons, like extra delivery personnel and additional store workers. Once the holidays are over, those people likely lose their short-term employment. Cyclical unemployment is what most people think of as unemployment. It is unemployment caused by downturns in real gross domestic product. In other words, cyclical unemployment happens when the economy goes poorly. Frictional unemployment is quote unquote good unemployment. Frictional unemployment occurs during the normal working of a healthy economy. This comes from two sources. It is workers taking time to find a proper fit and the right job. It is also firms looking for the right fit for their open positions. The traditional example of frictional unemployment is the new college graduate who sends out dozens of resumes trying to find the perfect job for their new skills. A similar idea is structural unemployment. Here, there is a mismatch between skills and jobs. Primarily, structural unemployment happens when various jobs become obsolete. Examples of structural unemployment include buggy whip producers and tube television technicians. How do these different forms of unemployment factor into the nationwide level of unemployment? Seasonal unemployment does not factor into total unemployment. Economists also specify the natural rate of unemployment. This is the total of structural and frictional unemployment. It is what economists would consider full employment for a healthy economy. The accepted natural level of unemployment is between 5 and 6.5%.